Jesus said, walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. And I think that there's a rhythm even to what he's saying. Walk with me, work with me, watch how I do it. Walk with me, work with me, watch how I do it. Walk with me, work with me, watch how I do it. Walk with me, work with me, watch how I do it. And I think that he'd have been able, if he were a spoken word artist, he would have been able to take these words and say it in a rhythmic way. If he were a rapper, he'd be able to say, walk with me, work with me. Watch how I do it. You know, there's a rhythm. Jesus had a swag about him. I'm just telling you. He wasn't stressed out about anything. He wasn't stressed. He was not stressed. And this is why you walk with God. You don't run with God. You run with devils. But you walk with God. God is never hurried. And this is why Jesus said, come on. He says, walk with me, work with me. Watch what I do and learn the unforced rhythms of grace. There's an unforced rhythm of grace. And he says, come, you need to come away with me because your mind has been going too much. You've been stressed out. You've been thinking about too many things. You got money issues. You've been thinking about your future. You've been thinking about your health issues. You've been thinking about relationship issues. You've been thinking about this going on. You've been thinking about the house, how you're going to maintain all this, your clothes and this, with maintenance on this particular thing, the warranty on this particular thing, and have I updated this? Have I downloaded the latest release on this particular thing? Is it time to get this done? Is it time to get my yard done again? Is it time for me to go to the cleaners again? And all of these issues of life start bombarding us. Is it time for me to reinvent myself? It's time for me to come up with a new something. I've got to have a new and a fresh identity, and I'm under this pressure all of the time. Jesus says, no. Walk with me. Work with me. He's saying, watch what I do. Walk with me. Work with me. Watch what I do. Walk with me. Work with me. Watch what I do. Walk with me. Work with me. Watch what I do. And learn the unrushed rhythms of grace. He starts talking about these rhythms of grace. Grace has a rhythm. These rhythms of grace, the unforced rhythms of grace. It's not forced, but it is a calibration of the divine heartbeat of God. They have discovered that when people who love each other and trust each other cuddle, not only does their breathing mimic each other and they become synchronized in their breathing, but also their heartbeats start beating on the same beat. They start beating on the same beat. And Jesus is saying, I want you to come away with me because you've lost my heartbeat. And he says, we need to spend some time together so that you learn the unforced rhythms of grace. Jesus came full of grace and truth. And he says, I need you to hook up with me so that you learn these unforced rhythms of grace. I need you to be so tethered to me that as you hear the regulation of my breathing, that I'm a deep breather, and as you breathe with me, you can exhale all of the tension and then inhale pneuma, spirit. You're getting calibrated with God. He says, come away with me. I want you to just come away with me. Walk with me. Work with me. Watch what I do. Walk with me. Work with me. Watch what I do. Learn my rhythm. Walk with me. Work with me. Watch what I do. Learn the rhythms, the unforced rhythms of grace. Because if you don't, you're going to burn out. And you're going to stress out. And you're going to freak out. But when you walk with God, when you start walking with God, you learn the unforced rhythms of grace. There's something that we learn from walking with God. And I don't know whether you've ever noticed this or not, but God is never in a hurry. You will never find God running like Edith and all of the family. She didn't know how to walk. Every time she ran to Archie Bunker, Archie, she was always running. Always running. And you'll never find Jesus running. I don't care what kind of emergency there is. They've come out and said, Lazarus, my brother, he's sick. And they expected Jesus. Jesus was chilling. It took him so long. And by the time he got there, Lazarus was dead and had been dead for 3 days. Jesus, he takes his time. Adam and Eve, when they heard God, after they had sinned, they heard the sound of God. Walking, Genesis chapter 3, around verse 18. Walking in the cool of the day. Walking. Here's God walking. Now, God is mad as a six-shooter, but he's walking. He's not even, he knows. He said, I told those children. I told them you can eat of anything here except this one. And guess which one they wanted? And here come God. He's walking. He's not lost his cool. God is in full control. God is in control. And that's why he's saying, walk with me, work with me, watch what I do. Walk with me, work with me, watch what I do. Walk with me. He said, I know you got the pressures of children. Walk with me, work with me, watch what I do. I know you got a demanding spouse that you would like sometimes. You maybe haven't thought about divorce, but you've thought about murder. He says, walk with me, work with me, watch what I do. Walk with me, work with me, watch what I do. Wisdom is knowing what to ignore. He says, walk with me, work with me, watch what I do. There's so much that Jesus never responds to. People doing stupid stuff. You start noticing every stupid thing that people do, your blood pressure will be through the roof. You'll be at stroke level. Jesus says, walk with me, work with me, watch what I do. Walk with me, work with me, watch what I do. Walk with me, work with me, watch what I do. Walk with me, work with me, watch what I do. Walk with me, work with me, watch what I do. And learn the unforced rhythms of grace. That's a grace of God that will flow into your life when you get your life tethered to God. When you realize that God is your anchor, and he is our anchor. And the way that an anchor works, anchors don't make a lot of noise this under the water. And you don't see the anchor, but you feel its effect. You don't see an anchor, but you feel the anchor's effect in your life, that this thing is keeping you grounded. This is keeping me from losing it. This is the thing that keeps you from sinking down into depression, because I'm connected to him. And from all of the natural reasons, you should be lost, you should be depressed, you should be freaking out right now. But somehow, you may not even know where you're going and how things are going to work out and what's going to be the full result. I don't have to know. I'm walking with him, working with him. Watch how I do it. Walk with me, work with me, watch how I do it. And learn the unforced rhythms of grace, the unforced rhythms of grace. As it is in the heaven, Jesus taught us, pray, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. He said, I want you to get the things that you do on the earth calibrated to what I'm doing in the heavens. I want you to get such a divine alignment of what is in the heavens. Line your life up under that, because it is only through alignment that the flow happens. If you got a hose, the only reason that the stuff is not flowing through the hole is because there's a bend in the hose. And when there comes a bend in the road is not the end of the road. You've got to learn how to come into alignment, and everything that is designed to flow to you will flow into your life if you'll just let it as it is in heaven. So in the earth, if I come in the alignment, if I get calibrated, God, to how you do it, then the stress will start leaving me, because I trust you, God, even when I can't trace you. I trust you, God. I'm coming in to the alignment of God, and I'm learning the unforced rhythms of grace. It is saying, God, I so need you. I need to be anchored to you, tethered to you, so that as it is in the heavens, God, that you will allow me to help it to bring that same manifestation into the earth. We're learning his rhythm. We're getting his heartbeat. He's saying, just walk with me, walk with me, walk with me. See, we walk in love, not run. We walk by faith, not run. We walk in wisdom. We walk in victory. We walk in the liberty wherewith he's made us free. Walk in it. Walk in it. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly. Walk. Take your time. The unforced rhythms of grace. Don't be in a hurry. Everything that God has for you is for you. And the Father, he waits for the precious fruit of the earth. God has the patience of Job. He always walks. God walks. You'll never find God in a hurry. You'll never find God panicking. You'll never find God freaking out. You'll never find God stressed out. You'll never find God in a high-pitched squeal saying, what are we going to do? And if you ever hear God in a panic, you better run to the mountains. You better run to the rocks and start crying out. I'm just telling you, if you ever, but you'll never find God ever in a panic over what human beings can do. You'll never find God freaked out over a storm. God works in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform. He plants his footsteps upon the sea and he rides upon the storm. God never gets upset because there's a flood or a fire. Maybe he's burning out some old things to bring you something new anyhow. If you trust him and learn the unforced rhythms of grace, I'm telling you, God has a plan. God has a plan that will blow your mind. We've gotten so stressed out with all of the stuff that we're trying to keep up with, the latest in technology and the latest in fashion and the latest in parenting techniques and the latest from this in a book and a magazine and an article here and an email here and this, that, and the other. And we're so stressed out and we lose our equilibrium and we lose our calibration. We lose the equanimity of our souls and our minds are now in a bad place. And David began to talk and he says that I want my soul to be like that of a child that has been weaned. The only reason that David gives us this picture of having a soul like a child who has been weaned from his mother is because a weaned child who sits on the lap of his mother wants nothing from her. The unweaned child, every time he sits on the lap, all that he wants is milk. But the weaned child just wants the presence of their mother. David said, I just want my soul to be like a weaned child. To where I'm off of these dependents. I've grown up some, God, but I'm just content to be in your presence because my heart is being regulated to yours. And my breathing, you're slowing my breathing down because we are hyperventilating because of the stress. Life will do that. And so it's not an attack against being stressed and hyperventilation. But this is the solution to be able to come and get connected to God, because prayer is one of the things that helps to calibrate your soul. Prayer. When you begin to pray, when you begin to praise, when you begin to sing, singing calibrates your soul. It calibrates your soul. It calibrates your soul. People start stressing you out. Go into a song. You sometimes need a song to calibrate your soul when foolishness is going around. I mean, to keep you from hauling off and hitting somebody. There's such a peace. My God, sometimes you don't know what God will use to help calibrate your soul. But see, in the song, even long metered, because in heaven, God is never subject to time. And so God can take a long metered song, the kind that you couldn't even understand the words of what they were singing. Hey, child, to keep our, we didn't even know what they were. I thought they were talking about Ray Charles. I was a grown man before I even understood the words of the song. But somehow they could sing this stuff and their soul would be calibrated. They'd have an assurance to know that everything is going to be all right now. I can make it through. There's something about it that it brought them into contact with God. And wherever he was, it helps them to get on the same heartbeat. Because you're just spending time with the one that you love, and because you love him, you can trust him. And subconsciously, you don't even have to think about it. Your heart starts beating on the same rhythm with God, and that's why when you spend time with God, God will put his thoughts in you. That's why the Bible says, delight yourself, Psalm 37:4, also in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. He says, if you will delight in me, if you'll give me your heart, I'll put my desires in your heart. I'll calibrate your heart to where I am. I'll start you desiring the things of my kingdom, the things of my will, the things of my word. I'll change your desires if you'll just walk with me. Work with me. Watch what I do. Walk with me. Work with me. Watch what I do. And you start feeling the heartbeat of God. You're hearing now the beat of a different drummer. The little drummer boy. You start hearing the beat of a different drummer. And while the world is fast-paced and running and trying to get faster and faster, and I talk to God, He calibrates me every night. He calibrates me every morning, gets my soul ready to deal with people that are unsettled and folks that are hyperventilating. He's bringing me down into that place. And so He says, walk with me, work with me, watch what I do, walk with me. Work with me, watch what I do, walk with me, work with me, watch what I do. Your heart is being calibrated. Your breath is being calibrated. God is saying, I just want you to come and learn now. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace so that when I move you to go, at the timing that I move you, you'll know that it's divine. Walk with me, work with me, watch what I do, and learn the unforced rhythms of grace. Grace has a rhythm. There's a grace that says, I want to say this, but this is not the right time. There's a rhythm of grace. There's a rhythm of grace. You don't even realize that everything that in the earth is so connected to the heavens. God has so connected what goes on there. That's why He told us to pray this way. And don't ever think that God would ever tell you to pray for something that He's not willing to do. If He said, pray, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, I want you to calibrate it. He put the sun and the moon in the stars. The sun and the moon control the gravitational pull of the earth. The waves in every ocean, in all of our water, all over the planet, are controlled by the moon and the sun. Both of them control the gravitational pull of the earth, and that's what's responsive for the waters. It's not always the same. We have high tides and low tides. There's some periods in your life where you're going to have high tides, high stress, high pressure, high responsibility, but then there's a low tide. Every day the tide is going to recede and go back. Every evening the tide is going to rise up. In the morning the tide is high. But in the day, he balances it out. And it's from the heavens that He's controlling it all, from the sun and the moon, both of them working in tandem. And the gravitational force of both the sun and the moon are creating the waves, the ebb and flow. There's a rhythm that's in the heavens. There's a rhythm, there's a rhythm, there's a rhythm. And in the human body, the heart of an infant starts beating before the child's brain is formed. In the first trimester, the heart starts beating before the brain is formed. And it really says to us that God gives us the capacity to feel things that we can't yet understand. He's saying, if you trust me, there are unforced rhythms of grace. If you just trust me and feel the heartbeat, God will let you feel things that you can't even explain to other people. I mean, you'll know them by the Spirit, but you can't even explain them. And there have been so many things that have just stressed us out, and people are on medication, taking digestive aids. It's because their life is out of sync. And it needs to be divinely calibrated to God, because we've been trying to juggle too many things ourselves, and all of this juggling has stressed us out and has worn us out, and we feel like if I stop the juggling, everything is going to fall apart. You're not in control anyway. God is simply saying sometimes, be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10, He said, be still, chill out. Stop worrying, cease struggling, and know that I'm God. He's saying, just trust me, trust me. I will be exalted in the heaven, I will be exalted in the earth. I'm going to be exalted among the heathen. God said, just chill out on me. Chill out. Chill out. Get my rhythm. The unforced rhythms of grace, because the tides are rolling in. And we come into seasons of high tide. But He's designed for it to go back out. There's going to come a low tide and a high tide. And there's a grace in the morning and in the evening when the tide rises. He's just saying, just wait, because you've got to come. Because if you stay at high tide all of the time, you're going to end up flooding some things out. And He says you have to learn to pull back. And in the pulling back, you'll discover my grace for you. You can't stay in fast gear, high speed all the time. He says, I'm going to give you acceleration power when you need to go up a hill. And when you're dealing with stressful periods. There are some stressful chapters, but don't make it a stressful book. He says, it is grace that neutralizes the stress and can create a book of the peace of God working in your lives. See, he's a peacemaker. That means that there is stress. But when you calibrate, because you are tethered to God, and you're listening to the heart of God. It was John the Baptist or John the Revelator. John the Baptist was beheaded, but John, that beloved disciple, John the Revelator who wrote the book of Revelation, he leaned on Jesus' bosom at the table of the Last Supper. Jesus said, I am the door. And when he put his head on the door, he heard what was in his heart. And God filled his life with so much revelation and put him in a place of peace out on an island of Patmos. And I've been to the island of Patmos, and I've went to the cave where John the Revelator received all of that revelation. It was such an incredible place of peace. I walked out of the cave, and there hanging were date trees, pomegranate trees. The most beautiful pomegranates I've ever seen any place on the planet was on the island of Patmos. Such a peace of God filled my heart. I took the time to read through the book of Revelation several times while I was on the island of Patmos. And the peace of God calibrated my soul. There is a serenity in the view of what you experience there. And it wasn't a prison place for him. I thought that John the Revelator was exiled there all by himself. And then I saw on the island of Patmos monuments to John the Revelator, of people that he had led to Christ and baptized. On the island, he was not there alone. And ministry was still being lived out through his life. And he had the unforced rhythms of grace. He's the only one that really died of old age, because he learned the unforced rhythms of grace. And God calibrated him. And when he laid his head on the bosom of Jesus, put his ear to the door, and God let him hear what was in his heart and showed him things, and he put it in the book of Revelation. And I'm just here to tell you that if you'll just quiet down and be still and know that he's God, you will be amazed of what you will hear and how your breathing will become regulated. Inspired, God breathed, inspired, and peace. You'll be filled with all of the fullness of God. Be filled with the Spirit. And in that filling, there comes a peace and a composure in your life that will set the tone. When other people are screaming, and then there is a calmness in you, eventually they'll either start feeling really stupid about being way up here when you're down here, and subconsciously they'll start matching your tone. Don't lose your control because other people around you are out of control. When you are tethered to him, you walk with him, work with him, and watch what he does. And you'll have the unforced rhythms of grace learned in your life that can only come because you're walking with the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. I want to pray for you today, because there are so many worries and stressful things, and I wouldn't leave right now if I were you. Amen. Our lives are always in a hurry, and God wants to calibrate you right now. I want to ask of the grace of God's Spirit that he will calibrate us from all of the stressful things that have gotten us out of sync with who we are. Our minds are scattered. We wake up tired in the morning, not being able to get sufficient rest. Some of you are dealing with anxiety and preoccupation because your life is at a juncture, you're at a new season in your life. You're at a shift. God is shifting some things, and you've never experienced where you are before. What you're seeing now are new days, new challenges. And God is saying prophetically, behold, I will do a new thing. Shall you not see and know it? It will spring forth. But you got to trust him in this, because he's taking you on a leg of the journey that you've never been on before. You don't have any experience on this next level where you are. And you need him. And it is unnerving to go into an unknown dimension. You've never been at this place before. Your life is at a different shift. And we need a divine calibration. God, let me feel what you feel. Bring my breathing down, God. I'm hyperventilating. I'm stressed out. This thing is frightening the daylights out of me. But there's a divine calibration that comes. And right now, because of where you're going, satanic, demonic attack will come to your mind, your thoughts, your finances, your health, and your relationships. And he will work in everything that is dear to you. I want you to hear me by the Spirit of the living God. Because God's people are in trouble. Somehow we have been duped away from the very presence that keeps us sane. And whatever you worry about is what you bring about. What you worry about gets in you. And we've lost our calibration with God. And he wants to bring the unforced rhythms of grace into your heart. Bow your head. Father, in the name of Jesus, that name that is above every name, the name of Yeshua, we trust you, God. We don't necessarily know where we're going and what we're doing, God, but we trust you. We trust you. We trust you. God, never before have our lives been under the attack that we experience and we feel in our lives today. We need you, God. We need you. We need you. Oh, God, just let us feel your breath on us so that our breathing becomes calibrated with yours and that we are inspired by the very things that come out of your nostrils. As we imbibe you, God, may our vision be renewed.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Join us again next time for Power for Living, where revelation is power. Power for living.